As we do every other Thursday during the season, it is time for the Sim Spotlight, which is presented by Bigelow Tea. Grab a mug and tea proudly. And, of course, the man of the hour is Ring of Honor member, Super Bowl champion, and current former quarterback that does analysis for CBS Sports. He is Phil Simms. Phil, what's going on?
Nothing. You guys are going on, and the Giants. It seems like the Giants played that game about 2 weeks ago against the Saints, but it was a good day for them. I'm enjoying sitting here in my office. I'm actually watching the Chargers play, and I just came to this conclusion against the Raiders. You know, Justin Herbert's really good.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, he is really good.
I mean, I figured these things out. It takes a little while, but I figured it out this week. So,
Yeah.
Is that what the tape told you, Phil?
man, listen, it's what's the word for it? It's a tape to watch and learn and go, this is how you do it. How you stand and throw the ball. Everything technique-wise is great. Finding the next receiver. Everything you want in a quarterback is there. So not to get off on the Los Angeles Chargers, but, wow, it's really amazing, second-year player, how well he's playing.
Well, let's talk about the quarterback for the New York Football Giants, Daniel Jones, who you can argue maybe had his best game of his career against the Saints, Phil, against a good defense in a tough building. Career high in yards, leads his team to a victory with 2 drives at the end of the game, one in the fourth quarter, one in overtime. Your thoughts on Daniel Jones and what he showed in the Giants' first win of the year this year?
Well, he was almost perfect when you watch the game. I don't remember writing anything down that, I went, wow, he didn't make a right read or anything like that. Lots of things come to my mind. But, first off, last night I went out to dinner, which I try to do on Wednesday nights with my wife, and I'm leaving, and a guy stops me and says, the Giants, yes, okay, great. He goes, well, what do you think about Daniel Jones? I said, well, what do you think? And
was it
well,
Paul?
I'm not sure. And I went, so I go through this conversation everywhere I go, and I try to just say this to him really quick. Listen, I just go, he's the best player in the team. And I just say it that way to try to stop the conversation. I thought his play against the Saints, a tough, rugged football team, his decision-making, his accuracy was off the charts, and when he needed to, he used his athletic ability. So I thought it was a great game by him for sure.
Well, you know what, Phil? We all say that it starts in the trenches, and the Giants had their 4th left guard in 4 weeks, and Matt Skura, who had to come in and play in the Superdome. 40 attempts by Daniel Jones, was not sacked once, was hit only 6 times. Giants averaged 4 yards a carry on the ground, and they did not commit a single false start penalty. I got to be honest, I was even more impressed by how clean the offensive line played.
I'm not going to disagree. Listen, when you play the Saints, everybody thinks of Sean Payton as high-flying act. It's not. They're about toughness on both sides of the ball. They're a big physical team, and I thought that was a really interesting thing just watching what I could on Sunday in the studio, but then watching the game again, that they went in there and they fought the Saints and made it a fight and were as physical as they were, because if you don't, then they're going to embarrass you. But the Giants' offensive line, Daniel Jones, many things there. He threw the ball well. He made good decisions. But I thought some of the stuff I saw in the film, just watching it, wide receivers stacking them, it gave New Orleans some troubles. Just the fact that when Saquon scores his touchdown, really good read by Daniel Jones. I don't know if they planned on that, but Lattimore was trying to look at the inside receiver and steal one.
Yep.
And it was a really good read by Daniel Jones taking advantage of that.
Yeah, and they run that same play, Phil, at the start of the third quarter, and they threw the quick out to Ingram, and they kind of saw Lattimore was peaking a little bit, and I think they tried to take advantage of that. All right, I'm going to go to a fan question. This one from Tommy Sylvester. The first part, what do you think of the Giants' performance this past weekend? We already touched on that. But the second part of his question, now what do they have to do to keep that momentum going against Dallas this upcoming week?
Well, good question. Of course, I thought it was outstanding. Look, there's some things that went unnoticed there. I thought Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams, they made a play on the last drive, I think, of the game where Jameis Winston's probably going to get a completion, keep the drive going or whatever, but their pass rush got it done. So sometimes those things go unnoticed. I watched that. I thought the defensive line was aggressive, and really impressed with their will to really fight. And they hung in there, and they finally closed the game out. A close game, came from behind, but, that's the way the NFL is. Almost every single week for so many teams, it's about that last 5 minutes of the game. It's always in balance, and who can make the plays, and the Giants did it this week.
You know, Phil, I'm curious as to what you saw with your eye about Saquon Barkley, because this was the most he looked like the old Saquon Barkley that we've seen so far this season. I don't know if the Giants can count on that being the breakout game and if it will continue to look that way going forward, but I know this. If it does, that's great news for them.
Oh, yes. I mean, listen, the passing game, we saw what happens there. I thought Saquon Barkley, and I've said this to you guys many times, I say it almost every single week, and I mean it and truthful because I watch, is that I see progress every single game. And I think that has to be uplifting for the team, the players, the coaches. You can design more plays for him, do things like that. And, of course, it changes defenses, what they're going to start doing against the Giants if they see this trend to keep going forward, which it is.
All right, Phil, another question from the fans. This one from A.J. Marshall. What are the keys for the Giants defense this week to keep the Cowboys offense under 30-plus points?
You know, that's a good question. Going to be tough. I think it's this. The Giants secondary has to have one of its really good games or play really well. And I say that just so it gives the defensive line just a little more time to either get in the way of Dak Prescott or, get a sack or something like that would be great. But, be aggressive, all these things. But, of course, the other, it's almost, I'm making a counterpoint to myself. You got to be careful because they have great speed, lots of routes, lots of different plays, and they're always looking for ways to get deep down the field. So really tough assignment for the Giants secondary, but I thought they played really well against New Orleans, and I expect them to get better and play well this week.
To build off of that, Phil, the Giants gave up, 170 yards on the ground last week. Blake Martinez is out for the season. This was the first full game that he missed. How much would that alarm you going up against a Cowboys offense that is really running the football extremely well?
Well, it's not the greatest thing that we can have happen to the team, that's for sure. But I tell you, I just have really good faith in the defensive line of the Giants, that they can stay in there, hold their own. And this Cowboy offensive line, it's still not the offensive line we saw years ago. So when I look at it, I just say, hey, the Giants defense has got to come through. Dexter Lawrence, all those guys, they got to play big, and they got to hold their end up. So if the Cowboys start throwing the ball and they get time, and they start running the football well, then, that place, that stadium, the emotion, they ride it. And if that happens, it's going to be a tough day for the Giants.
Phil,
this defense, let me just say this real quick.
Yeah, please.
The defense of the Cowboys, it's better, okay? We all know that. But it's not something I look at and say, hey, the Giants could put 30 points on the board against this defense too. So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. If Daniel Jones gets time, I think they can throw the football on the Cowboys and have great success.
Yeah, Phil, I agree 100%, and that's exactly where I was going with my next question. The Cowboys have given up a bunch of yards, but they've been what I call a big play defense, right? They get that takeaway or that turnover that ends drives. And Trayvon Diggs specifically, 5 interceptions, 1 in each game this year. Going back to last year, he was a ball hawk as well. If you're a quarterback and you're dealing with a corner like Diggs that likes to read the quarterback's eyes, anticipate what's coming, make plays on the football, how can you take advantage of that? What can you do as an offense to make that defense pay for that type of aggressive posture?
Well, Trayvon Diggs, I loved him coming out of Alabama. I thought he really had great skill. In other words, he reads the quarterback, kind of reminds me of Aqib Talib, maybe Richard Sherman in his heyday. They can see the receiver and the quarterback at the same time, and they can take advantage of that. But also the quarterback can take advantage of that, which I've seen both of those guys get burned for touchdowns because the quarterback makes a move or does something quick or makes them think he's going somewhere else besides right at him, and they gamble. And when they do that, that's when you get touchdowns, which we saw this past week with Lattimore. And when I see Diggs, I kind of think of the same thing. He's trying to do both, read the quarterback, read the receiver, and sometimes you do that, you're going to give up big plays, so we'll see if the Giants have a way of taking advantage of that technique that he has.
Phil, I hate to keep flopping back to the other side of the ball, but we haven't mentioned Dak Prescott yet. And the numbers, I have not seen but one Dallas game. I saw the game against the Chargers. I have not seen their other games. The numbers are sticking off the page like he is off to the best month of his career. I don't know how much you've watched of him so far, but how good has he been?
Well, he's been very good. I've watched every throw. I think the game plans that he's been given to him have been very good. The Charger game was, they didn't score a lot of points, but it was the game where both teams were up and down the field the whole time, but they made mistakes. But Dak Prescott has been extremely accurate. The scheme has been really good. They mix it up in many ways with, power, finesse. I think Kellen Moore has done a great job. But Dak Prescott's throwing the ball the best I've ever seen him. And he's one of those quarterbacks. Every year he has stayed in the league, he has become a better thrower, a better decision maker. And right now, listen, if he keeps playing like this, I hate to do these things, but he'll be in that thing. Who's going to be the MVP of the NFL? Because the numbers he's putting up with those receivers and that style of offense they run is going to give him a chance to do that.
Phil, I'm fascinated by how the Cowboys are using Micah Parsons. First week, he was an off-ball linebacker. Weeks 2 and 3, with the injuries they had at the edge, they put him out there at defensive end and, that Leo linebacker spot. And he basically killed right tackles and left tackles for 2 weeks. Then against the Panthers last week, they put him back at off-ball linebacker, use him more of a blitzer. They use him in coverage a little bit. How do you think they're going to utilize him this week? And what are some of the keys for the Giants to limit his impact on the game?
Wow, listen, it's going to be interesting. And what they're doing, they're just giving him opportunities and moving him around because he can do it all. And when he moved to defensive end, I guess that was in week 2.
Yep.
Yes. And I thought, okay, let's see how this works. And I was expecting nothing. And then I watched the game, I was like, oh, my gosh. He looked like he was drafted to be a defensive pass rushing specialist. So he has great intuition, understands the game well, too. That's why they put him at linebacker. They want to blitz him. They want to put him on the edge. Just keep you guessing. But they know he just has that ability to do it. Reads things well. And it'll be interesting to see what they do. I would always expect him to get his number of rushes from the outside because he's had success. And crowd noise, all those things, Giants, their offensive line, whatever, they're going to try to get some guys on the edge, of course, when you look at it, and he would be one they'll try to take advantage of.
Phil, when looking at this Dallas speed defense, speed is the number one thing that comes to mind with that D. Do you think the Giants are well advised to continue to use Barkley a little bit outside on the boundary like they did last week and use Tony and gadget play kind of things so that you can get them confused with some misdirection and stuff of that nature? Or would you just line it up and play it straight and say, look, our guys against your guys, we think we can win?
Well, no, I would not do that because I think in this day and age, in this league, the more deception you give, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but the analytics tells you when you shift in motion and you do these things, I don't call them trick plays. I call them keep the defense honest plays. And I've been taught by many people over the years that you got to have them in. We see the Patriots do it every week. We're seeing the Cowboys doing lots of different things. And I think the Giants on the same, what they did last week, you got to find ways to, get them chasing the cars. I used to hear Parcells go, don't be a car chaser. He'd tell the defense, read your keys and do the right thing. In other words, there comes a car and you're the dog and you roar, roar, roar. Then a car goes the other way, you stop and chase him. So when it comes down to it, you get nothing done. But, the Giants, they need to do that on offense just like the Cowboys are doing it. We see Tampa. We see everybody. You saw New England on Sunday night, what they do. They do it at every game. And I think that should be not something you do every once in a while. I think you need to have those plays in every single week now in this league.
Phil, final fan question. This one a two-parter from star of Screen and Stage, David Futternick. His first question, also, despite coming off a big win, what do you think the Giants' biggest worry should be? And when you look at their roster, the thing you worry about the most, if there's a hole there going forward. And then also the second part of that is, who was your favorite teammate when you were with the Giants?
Oh, I couldn't say one guy, one favorite teammate. I had a great relationship with most of my offensive linemen. Tony Galbraith, Maurice Carthon, of course, Phil McConkey, we know that. So a lot of them. When you're on a team, especially on your side of the ball, you're around each other so much, you do become good friends. And when we run into each other during off seasons or whatever, we have lots of laughs about some of the things that went on, the good and the bad. And when I look at the Giant roster, I don't look at it now and just go, wow, I see a really big hole here in the roster. I think the defense and offensive lines are doing well. The receiving core looks like it's really come on. Daniel Jones is playing well. Saquon's looking better and better every single week. I thought the corners played well down in New Orleans last week. Put some pressure on them, and they come up with the plays. So I don't see a big hope. I just see a team that has to go in, and they got to play solid football and all that, and they're just going to play in a lot of close games, and they got to be able to pull it out at the end. Because, again, that's what the league is about, and that's who the Giants are. And the difference between the margin of error, as I always say, is very slim for almost every team in the league except for a few elite ones, and the Giants fall in that category. So we'll see how it happens. I'm excited to see the game and, watch this Cowboy team one more time and see if I really believe all the hype that's going with them. They do have a lot of stars, but I think the Giants have a chance to beat them.
We'll see what happens. These NFC East games, Phil, as you well know, are always very tight and competitive, and they usually go down to the last few minutes, and we hope that's the case once again on Sunday. Phil, great stuff. You can,
okay.
And Phil, they can find you on the CBS pre and post this weekend as usual, right?
I think I'll be there, yes. I'm going to call Boomer and ask him if he'll allow me to talk this week, so we'll see what goes on.
Well, good luck with that.
All right, yeah, good luck.
Yeah,
okay, guys.
We're not going to be tough.
Me.
Thanks, Phil. Appreciate it.
Okay.
That is the Sim Spotlight. It is presented by Bigelow Tea. Grab a mug and tea proudly.